you. Come here. You are big. You are big, big, big. Just wish you guys could see this fight. That's a big, big fish. Big fish. Big, 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 big. Oh, I never get tired of hearing about the big smallie at the Wisconsin River Fest. What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Fishing with Gramps Live, also known as the Everything Kayak Fishing Podcast, presented by American Legacy Fishing, Moving Water Outfitters, and of course, my favorite kayak trailer in the country, Fish Texas Kayak Trailers. Tonight, we've got a special guest. We're going to go through and do a little chit-chatting and talk to a guy who's been around kayak bass fishing for a long time. But if you've been to any of the events and you're a person of faith, you have to know Mr. Matt Ball, because he leads our Fisherman Fellowship for every single event. And that was probably where I met him first, at a KBFNC, whose shirt, I happened to be wearing tonight, which is kind of funny. I worked to work today and didn't even think about it. But it's where Matt and I first met in person a few years ago. And of course, it was at the Fisherman's Fellowship. So had to get him on before we get to the Bassmaster. We call it the Classic amongst the people who like to fish, but the Bassmaster Kayak Series Championship. But welcome, Mr. Matt Ball, to the Everything Kayak Fishing Podcast. It's been a long time. Seems like I've known you forever, and I haven't even had you on the show before, but welcome.
Hey, thanks. I appreciate you having me on here. I really do. So
Yeah, it's a fun time, and if you haven't met Matt, you would think he's just the gentle giant that he is, but you might not even think of, man, this dude has won like anything there is to win, and just catches the smack out of fish. But I mean, all around great guy. And I mean, for me, the example of a shining of a personality, a person that you want in our sport to bring new people in, and also share the passion and the gospel with other people. But like I said, I had to get him on. And Matt, just I guess if you would back up a little bit and tell us how you kind of got into fishing, and then we'll get into a little bit of how you got into a kayak for the first time, and then what you've been doing since you started fishing.
well, thanks for all the praise there. I appreciate it. I don't deserve all that, but I appreciate it. But no, I grew up. I grew up in a fishing. My dad. I've got pictures of myself on the South Branch of the Potomac of the river in diapers. In a John boat fishing the South Branch of the Potomac, growing up, and fishing the Tigert River and all the just Tigert Lake. And I grew up in Grafton, West Virginia. And my dad he fished bass tournaments out of a bass boat years ago. And really, that was what we did. Every family vacation, every thing we did that wasn't at home or on the farm was had to do with going fishing somewhere. We would, that's what we did. And I loved it. And then, as I got older, I started, doing a lot more, went to college, moved out in college and started really, I went to college at a place called Alderson Broaddus University in Philippi, West Virginia, mountains over there. And it was on the Tigert River, and it's great smallmouth fishing. And of course, didn't have the bass boat, that I had back at home. So I would go down and fish the rivers, and it's just what I've always loved to do. Got married right after college, and really started having a family. We've got 4 awesome kids. The 3 boys, and my youngest is my daughter, and she is a freshman in college this year. So it's hard to believe, but yeah. We do when we go on we like to camp. We like to go fishing, kayaking. I've had 6 kayaks on top of my truck. It's the safest thing you've ever seen, but my love going out with the kayaks. But yeah, started fishing in a bass boat. And then when probably always fished in high school. We would go on float trips with a canoe. We had beat up canoes. We would go floating down the South Branch of the Potomac. The all the rivers around here, the Tiger River and all that with my buddies. I've got some really good friends that I'm still really close with, that we would spend all night on the riverbanks catfishing, probably getting in trouble, but we did a lot of catfishing. We did a lot of we were just always fishing. But anyway, started into kayak fishing really out of the necessity of wanting to do better while we were doing our float trips with all of my friends, because you could control your own boat. You weren't tethered to someone else in the boat all the time. We would pair up in canoes, and you could control them better. And started out with a Walmart plastic kayak from, I think I got it at Sam's.
Yeah. Yep.
And he got into it. My dad and I would kayak fish. We'd go to the South Branch of Potomac a lot. I'm sorry, the Greenbrier River a lot. That was one of the places. Got a lot of my buddies into it. One of my good friends, he got into it. He actually runs Mountain State Kayak Anglers now. Got him in. And it's just been something, seeing people around me that have gotten into it and that have had a lot of success in it. And it's, my kids, and it's just it's humbling to see the amount of people that have been able to help get into this sport, and that it's something that's what they do now, and it's awesome. But went from the cheap plastic boat from Sam's, and I think the first good kayak I bought was a Wilderness Systems Tarpon 120. I bought probably 15 years ago, and then started really getting more into realizing that there was probably some better boats out there. And I got into a Jackson kayak, and it was the Coosa HD that my buddy Drew Gregory had designed. And he wasn't my buddy at the time, but that's what I ended up in 2016. I was using that boat with a paddle and a little tiny fish finder about this big that just showed basically temperature and water depth.
Yeah.
And we decided, hey, we've never fished a big lake like Kentucky Lake. Let's go to Kentucky Lake for the KBF. I'd qualified through Mountain State Kayak Anglers that year, and went to the national championship with them and ended up winning it. And so, paddling a kayak, no motor and no, I was wearing my hunting clothes. I had 7 or 8 different types of rods. Most of my rods was missing eyelets. And, I say that to let everybody out there know that, you see a lot of us out there now with, these fancy rigs and whatnot, but you can do it. You don't have to have that to be successful in this sport. It makes it more comfortable. It makes it a little easier at times, but you don't all that stuff. Don't be afraid to get into this sport in what you have. And I've been beat multiple times, and many of the big names have been beat by people that are out there with a paddle and a entry, what I would consider a lot of the entry level kayaks. So you don't have to stuff. Naturally, in human nature is, once you start getting into something, you want to get bigger and better on that kind of stuff. And that's what typically happens, but you don't have to have that. But anyway, won the national championship that year, and my life changed as far as my fishing career. I owe a ton of credit to my buddy Chad Hoover, who, when I won that year, he took me under his wing and said, Matt, you've got a platform now. No matter what you do from now on out, you're always going to be the first national champion, and you can do one or two things with it. You can embrace it and make something of it, whatever that is that you want it to be, because you now have a platform. And or you can just step back and blend back in, and you're always going to be first one. And I remember driving home from that event, and I didn't even have a Facebook account when I went to the national championship. And the only way you could get communication was through Facebook. Well, my wife had a Facebook account, so I actually used her account to get all my notifications and everything. And right before I went, I added my name to it, so I would have, so it looked, we both, it was said Matt Trisha Ball was my Facebook account. Absolutely. I mean, I had hundreds and hundreds of people messaging me on the way home, and it just blew up. She kicked me off of her Facebook page because it nothing but fishing. But anyway, on my way home, it was just surreal, all that had happened with, one, winning that kind of money, and two, everybody knowing who you were at that point in the fishing, the kayak fishing world at that point.
Oh, yeah.
And I was just sitting there, and I was, the Lord just kind of put it on my heart, Matt, I gave you this opportunity. I want you to use it for me. And, I'm not going to say that I've done a good job of that, but that's what I've really tried to do. Sharing my faith from the beginning, not ashamed of my faith, not ashamed of where I stand in my relationship with Jesus Christ. And that's what I've done. And it's not because of that I've had success, but it's because of that I feel like I'm at peace with all the decisions I make in the sport. And, you're not always going to win. He has shown me way more times through this sport how to be content with the outcome of whatever happens. And I'm not going to say that has come easy.
Right.
A couple years that I was in this sport, I really did really, really well. And it's grown. More younger people that have way more time are getting into it. And, it's harder and harder every year to be, successful. But I have learned over the last few years, actually the last 10 years in this sport, that's not what it's real easy for me to make that my identity. My identity is not Matt Ball, the kayak fisherman. My identity is in Jesus Christ. My identity is as a Christian, as a follower of Jesus, as a father, as a husband, and really as someone that is there to be the hands and feet, or just to show people what the goodness of God is out there. So I'm trying to do that. I don't do that all the time.
None of us are perfect, that's for sure.
I am a failure so many times over, but it's been a blessing. So in saying that, I got hooked up with a good friend, really one of the most awesome men I've met in my life in this sport is Cody Prather. And him and I really hit it off, and we got to talking, and he is the one that came up with the idea of Fisherman's Fellowship. I would lead prayer and that kind of thing with events and everything. And he reached out to me, said, Matt, he said, the Lord is telling me that we need to do more with this. And him and his wife, Sarah, they have done an amazing job of building the nonprofit of Fisherman's Fellowship. And I'm just a little small piece of that, trying to help build that. We run myself and multiple people have volunteered to lead messages at a lot of the events. That's that I'm going to reach out on this to, if you're a follower, you have a message you want to give out, reach out to me, reach out to Cody. And let's talk about it, because, I can't be at every event anymore. I've got a full-time job, and, it's hard for me to get to every event.
Yeah.
I've tried to do that over the last few years, and, it's not something that's feasible. But, we need people that are willing to go out there and lead these at the events. We've had a Bassmaster event in Arizona, and we've had them all over the country. So, I can't go to all those, and neither can Cody. Cody's
Right.
busy camera work. He works for Bassmaster as a cameraman for, he's out on these boats with these pros all the time filming stuff. So, it's just hard for us to really keep that going. So I need help out there, So I've been praying for people to come to me and say, "Hey, we would love to do that." So that's really what I want to say about that. Where we will be having one, I'll be leading one at the
Yeah.
Bass Classic. I'm not sure exactly what day yet. I got to kind of get with Cody, and we'll have a graphic that'll go out. So look for that. But anyway, back to the fishing after the national championship. I really started fishing. It was KBF events, all the KBF events that I could possibly fish. Did really well year after year with the Angler of the Year, and qualified for the 10. And really, I went on a pretty good streak of finishing really, really high in all the national championships. And
Yeah.
that was against the big names, and I don't ever consider myself one of those, but it's humbling to go out on stage with people like Drew and Russ and Jody and Christine and all these people. There's just so many names. Guillermo, there's just, and all of these people are really close friends of mine, and I have made so many friends in this sport. That's what this has been all about.
No, it's amazing community. I mean, I know exactly what you mean because even, you wouldn't call yourself a name, but of course we all would. But I mean, that's all part of it. But you know how it is too. You guys are all just, all of you are just regular folks, just like the rest of us. Anybody, on any given day can just have that day, have that weekend, and everything's got to align, regardless of how good you are, whatever. Still got to go catch those fish. But it's fun as we as fans who follow you guys around for the tournaments that you can get to. And just now that we have so much with the social media and everything, where we can see everybody's kind of videos for those who do videos when they're done or posting on their socials. You see more guys like Abby Abonanza kind of doing more of the filming, and a lot of the guys you see in fishing, regardless of how well they do or don't, just being there but putting that content out, helps grow the sport. And it's like I've always said, it's cool that we're getting to the point now where we can have a higher level of bass fishing that we have with Bassmaster. And then like you have all the fun events still, where KBF is going more back to the online stuff for now, plus the KBF NC and still the 10. And then you have the Kayak Adventure Series kicking off with a, kind of a hardcore piece of it too, but then also some fun sides of it. And then with Gene and Michael starting up the Team Kayak Series, there's plenty of events for anybody wherever you're at, especially if you're probably on this side of the Mississippi. There's plenty of events to get to, so you don't have to go to everything. I'll probably only fish one Bassmaster this year because Dale Hollow is going to be close by. But I've got a couple of Kayak Adventure Series nearby, and I will always be at the KBF NC every year that I qualify, because that to me got me kind of into it after fishing like heroes on the water. And then, of course, the charity aspect side of KBF, which is what I lead, being the head of fish ops there, and keeping the fun and starting the next generation of young and old anglers getting into kayaks and fishing the challenges, and then giving them a pathway to come fish the KBFNC so they can throw their hat in the arena against a Matt Ball, a Jody Queen, a Guillermo, a Christine, Mr. Michael Ridenauer, who fished in the 10 this year. Kind of a little family affair that, if you guys didn't know, Matt and Michael are cousins, and they'll be fishing together some too. But I mean, I've heard stories about people going back and forth in these West Virginia championships, and I saw somebody this year was holding up the trophy. So
Yeah, that was my most recent awesome experience. I was able to win that. I was able to win um the the first the first West Virginia state championship through the Bass Nation, when West Virginia actually had a Bass Nation chapter. And then I won it the third year again, and then last year I won the West Virginia, best of the best in the Mountain State Kayak Angler state championship. So I'd really we have so many great opportunities in this sport. Like you said, Drew, Drew's series, I have not been able to fish any yet because of a lot of different things with family and life and everything.
Mhm.
But I want to tell you, it is so impressive what he's got out there. We all know what uh, my buddy Steve has done in the Bassmaster series. He has made that an amazing premier event. Chad is the founder, in my opinion, of all of the everything the kayaks fishing sport, and he is still out there uh, getting people into the sport. The
Yep.
month we have, I love fishing those, and I tell people, those are a great way to get your feet into competition, get
Yep.
your taking pictures on the water, get used to, how that all works, taking pictures of a fish and trying to get a good picture and submitting it is crucial in this to be successful in this. That's one thing that I've taken pride in, and that is trying not to make stupid mistakes when I'm fishing tournaments. And the reason is I've got so much time in this sport is through fishing monthlies, through fishing most all of the state events that I can, fishing with Mountain State kayak anglers, West Virginia kayak anglers, Southern West Virginia kayak anglers. Right now this year, really, it's just Mountain State kayak anglers is the only one having events that I'm aware of. I hope I'm not wrong on that, but check out your local clubs because they're low cost. You're not spending the fortune, and
Yep. Yep.
and but let me tell you, do the monthlies through KBF. They're great opportunities to just get you out on the water and get you in that. For me, I'm going to have to be honest. I'm slightly addicted to the competition of fishing. Uh,
Yeah.
I think we all are that do it. It's kind of that pull that you just can't. I've had such bad events before. We're on the drive home, 12-hour drive. I'm saying, why do I put myself through this? I don't think I'm going to do this anymore. And then a couple days after I'm not there, I'm like, man, I want to get back out there and do it again. It's just
Oh
crazy.
yeah.
I mean, uh, but do the local events, check out KBS, the state, there's so many opportunities. Drew's series is awesome. My cousin and I, Mike, we're going to team up and fish some of the team kayak series that just started out this year. That a lot of them, unfortunately, I work at a chemical plant. I'm a maintenance guy, maintenance coordinator there, and our shutdown is. I'm really lucky that I'm actually getting to go to the classic because we're right in the middle of all that right now. So
Yeah.
uh,
Okay.
I'm going to go to the classic, come back, and not going to be doing much fishing for a few months or for quite a few weeks after that. But once that ends, it's all in. So, but unfortunately, a lot of this stuff happens in April, and that's when every year I'm in the middle of shutdown. So,
Yeah,
kind
it's the busiest time of year. So tell us a little bit about your kayak setup, what you fish, how you have it set up. Describe
of,
it for us, for those of us who are listening on the podcast. So
I guess
spill the beans on your rig.
I will tell. I haven't really made an official announcement, and I guess I'll do it here that I am part of Team Bonafide now. I was with Jackson for years, and Jackson makes an incredible boat. And a couple years ago, I just decided I wanted to step back from one brand and just really try them all and
Yep.
see what there's so many amazing kayaks. Hobie makes some great kayaks. New Canoe makes an amazing kayak. Bonafide makes amazing kayaks. There's so many opportunities that fit you. So I got into what, for me, I'm a motor guy,
Mhm.
and I wanted a kayak that was designed really around the motor. And that is 100% what that PWR 129 was. It was absolutely the easiest riggable boat. So I got that boat, wasn't on the team, wasn't anything. That's just what I wanted to fish out of, and spent the last year um, absolutely loving that boat. My favorite kayak that I've tournament fished out of to this point. I'm a big fan of inflatables. I'll tell you that right now. Um,
Okay.
I love to use my inflatables. I've got an NRS, which they don't make anymore, an NRS Scuda that I've got rigged up with a Torpedo that I use in the creeks and the rivers. And, I fish out of that a lot. But as far as tournament fishing out of a kayak, that PWR 129 is just the way to go. And they also have the RVR that is just an amazing river boat. That's what I'm going to be using this year in a lot of the river tournaments and that kind of smaller. I need to just throw it in the back of my truck. So, it's decked out with a Torpedo. I'm a big part of Torpedo. I work with Torpedo. They're a big supporter of mine. I've been with them since the year I won the national for 10 years now. So,
Oh, wow. Okay.
Torpedo has went through a little bit of a struggle with the, being sold, and, we're now part of Yamaha, which is great and is exciting, but we've went through a little rough patch with getting a new motor out. So I think really you're going to start really seeing some amazing things from the Torpedo with this new motor now that we're finally getting them available and ready to get out there. So work with them. I am a 100% diehard Z-Man fishing person. I've been with Z-Man for a while, and they make the perfect baits for kayak fishermen. You don't have to carry as they got it all. They got the collars and they last. I've got my dad fishing. He fishes the Tigert River, and he sent me a picture one year of a hula stick that he had caught. I'm going to probably underestimate, but I think it was over 100 fish he caught on that one. And he sent me a picture. He said, "Send this into Z-Man." I want to tell him I've caught 100 fish on this one little Z-Man. So, they last. You're not constantly, and they're affordable. Even their plastics are not overpriced, and they last. So they make great hooks now, great jig heads. You can't beat the
Before we get into baits and rods and reels, I want to finish up with the kayaks first, because I'm going to take you down a whole rabbit hole with all that. So back to your boat. I see you wearing a Yak Attack sweatshirt there. So
I've been with Yak Attack for years. Yak Attack is it doesn't matter what kayak you have, you can make it work for kayak fishing with Yak Attack products. You can build out a boat that suits your needs. They can't fix the stability and the paddle ability of them, but as far as the rig ability, there's no other name, in my opinion, as far as all encompassing.
Yep.
Pack landing.
And just to drop a little future bomb here, we're gonna have Wade from Yak Attack on in an upcoming episode. So looking forward to getting him on too. But yeah, they definitely make like anything you can ever think about needing to rig a kayak. They definitely make it. And if they don't have it, it's probably in production and coming in the future. They just keep adding and innovating every year with even new products. What kind of do you run any graphs on your Yak? Tell us a little bit about that.
Lowrance guy since the beginning.
Okay.
Lowrance Elite 9, HDS 9. I've got the active target on my boat. I'm not what I would call a big time active target guy, but I have over the last few years really gotten to where I utilize it better. I've learned that to compete with a lot of these guys, you need to learn it, and I'm not a big fan of using it all the time because my style, I like to finesse fish, which it suits that well. But I'm also a bank fisherman. I mean, I like to throw at the bank a lot. But any of these active targets or all of them, I use the scout mode a lot, and got me really starting to use that a lot was my buddy Kurt Smits, who was always using the scout mode on his Garmin. I don't think they call it scout on that. I think it's perspective.
Yeah, for us Garmin guys, that's the perspective mode.
And I've really started I use that 90% of the time, and it's running.
See, and that's like a hack a lot of people don't really know about yet, because one of the parts that I'm going to order that's going to go on my live scope pole is the one that lets you pick up the pole and you can make 2 quick turns and change it. But a lot of people haven't. Yeah, and a lot of people don't realize that scout or that perspective mode is like a hack, especially when you're looking into grass under pads. It's a little bit different spin than everything that you're always hearing, like forward facing wise.
Reason I use perspective mode a lot, and this is why I do. I only have one graph on my boat. I don't have two graphs. If I had two, there would be a pretty good chance I would leave it in front forward facing a lot more, but I don't. But with one graph, if you're not in perspective mode, you're missing all kinds of stuff as you're going down the bank. I leave that on perspective mode. I'm going down a bank, fishing docks, whatever, and I can look down and see that there's fish swimming in front of a dock, or there's a brush pile that I don't that I'm you don't know that brush pile is there until you cross over it if you're running down scan. And when you go over that brush pile, you've already went over. And a lot of times you're in shallow water and you've probably blown that spot up a little bit. So you can look on that perspective mode and look out in front of you and see, hey, there's a daggone brush pile in front of that dock. Pitch over to it. And, I don't necessarily target fish on perspective mode as much as I do structure, grass, logs, anything that's coming up. And you can see that with that. And it's, I've still got my temperature. Now with, if I had two graphs, forward facing is great. Cause if you can run your side scan and you can see something on your side scan, aim it at it. But if you're running forward facing, for me, on a kayak, you're constantly searching around for it, when I'd rather just be fishing and then looking down and say, oh, there's something. you
Yeah,
know
gotcha.
Now, if I'm fishing docks all day, I'll put it on forward, and I will
Okay.
literally docks apart with that. But most of the time, it's setting on scout mode. I use Dakota lithium battery. I run everything. Everything on my boat runs. I've got everything wired in with the Yak Power box, and then it runs through a 54 amp hour Dakota lithium 12-volt battery, and it will run me from daylight till dark every day. Got two of them. I use one day and put the other one in, and the next day, and while the other one's charging. And I'm on the same two 54 amp hour batteries for the last 5 years, so they've
Yep.
been good batteries. I do not baby them. I take that back. I did drop one off the back of my truck, and something happened with it, and they sent me another one. So actually, one of them's that old. The other one's probably 3 years old. But not had any problems with them. I run I've got the new Torpedo Adventure motor, which is a little more powerful than the old one. It's got a bigger battery. It's heavier
I was
duty,
gonna say you've got a new bigger battery this year too, don't you?
1080, as opposed to
Yep.
915. It's higher voltage, or higher wattage. Sorry. And the motor's got a heavier cable. A lot of the issues that we had with the Torpedo 1103, which was really one of the top of the line motors out there, was just some minor things, but that's where the service issues were happening. And it was with the cable communication, where that motor tilts and that wire was constantly bending. This new one has a heavier duty. Another issue was the connection into the battery. It's just a 1/4 turn twist with two big pins now, not a bunch of little tiny pins. The throttle is amazing. The new throttle, if you haven't checked out the new throttle on this thing, it's backlit. It's really top of the end. Another shout out to an amazing company. Um, Honestly, if you use a Torpedo or a Newport, you need to get with Innovative Sportsman, Trey Leach with Innovative Sportsman, and you need a rock guard. That is, I would not run a motor without one. Um, just wouldn't do it.
And
So
they just released a new version of their rock guard as well. And for us Newport guys that always have a problem with that metal arm bending, they've released a heavy duty, which I have sitting out here waiting to go on to the PWR. And then they've also got a more metal steering triangle as well instead. So I'm going to swap that out too, but that'll
Torpedo
be after I get done.
it's just they beefed up everything.
Yeah.
Like, check out Trey Leach. Uh, Check out his Osprey boat that him and Jeff Little have designed. If you're going
That's so cool.
to inflatable boat, There is no other option, period. That is the Cadillac of an inflatable boats. Matter of fact, even if you're just period kayak, it doesn't mean it. You can run them everywhere. So they're
Yeah.
amazing. Check them out, and you will not be. I can tell you, there's a lot of benefits to the inflatables. There really is. So
Yeah, Josh Shrenko's got one, and it's just like, do I want to stick with the bona fides? Because I'm a free agent. I was on the Old Town Pro staff for a little bit, and then the PWR dropped, and I was like, I've got to go play with this thing, and playing with the XTR this year. But that Osprey,
absolutely amazing. My buddies have it. Jody is running it. Abby's running it this year. Um, just so many people have it. It is an absolute amazing platform. I really was torn whether to get that, but I love my PWR so much that I really want to get into. I want to really promote the RVR this year through my sponsorship with Bonafide. So that's really the one I think I'm going to this year, and then probably maybe next year. I'd get into try the XTR, but it's amazing, absolutely amazing. But a lot of the places that I fish, not that you can't truck bed the XTR, but it's a little easier the PWR, and a lot of times in West Virginia, it ain't conducive to have a trailer with you in a lot of the places that we have our events and everything. So it's the PWR fits me my daily use much better. But on the national tournament trail, the XTR would probably be a better choice. But that's what I'm going to do this year.
yeah, well, 1 year at a time. You just joined the team, so yeah. So let's talk a little bit about your style of fishing. I know you're sponsored with Fish. I'll let you
Fishing online.
Fishing Online, and then you work with the rod company, and then you work with some very specific baits. But as we get into the brands that you work with, tell us what your fishing style is, what your go-to baits, because honestly, a lot of times it's the way we fish that basically leads us to these various brands, because it's easier once we kind of know how we fish, what our style is, then we find those brands that work with what we're doing, and then eventually end up working with them.
Well, I started out as a absolute finesse fisherman. I mean, that's what I did. I grew up smallmouth fishing, so spinning rod, shaky head, all that kind of stuff, top water, that kind of stuff for smallmouth, and that's what I was very successful in. I won the national championship with a shaky head worm on a 412 minnow. Remember old 412 bait company, still out there, and I still use them sometimes, in the right situation. But that free minnow is what I won the national championship with on a shaky head.
Okay.
And that's what I wanted on. And just absolutely one fish I caught on a jackhammer. It wasn't a jackhammer at the time. It was some other off brand I had in my box, and I ended up catching one on it. And but the rest of my fish were all caught on, basically almost a TRD type. So anyway, but I started out really doing that. So I kind of learned, every year you learn more. I've learned a lot, and I can say that my style of fishing has changed. And you got to be careful about that, because you always need to remember where you came from when you're fishing. What are you good at? But you also, in order to excel and in order to mature as a fisherman, you got to learn a lot of these other techniques. So I really spent a few years locking my hand into some power fishing techniques, and I tell you what, that has helped me. You got to be careful, but it'll help you in ways, but it'll also hurt you if you don't give up and go back to what you're good at when the times are tough. But I found that in order for me, with these tournaments, you're breaking down water. And for me, I don't have usually a week to be there. So it's hard for me to go long, for example, getting ready to go to Lake Fork. I've never been there. I'm not going to have but about 3 days to figure out something. I probably could go and spend a lot of time throwing a shaky head around every brush pile and catching good fish and doing that. But you're not, it is a very slow process to fish that way.
Yep.
So, what you have to learn to do, or what I have learned to do, is learn to throw more search baits and cover more water, especially during pre-fishing times. You know, you got to slow down when you come to the right thing. You want to you want to slow down and see what's really there. But I have been able to eliminate a lot of water and find pockets that are more productive and then slow down. Whereas before, I may never have picked up a chatterbait or a anything like that. So I'm more power fisherman. Another thing that I've gotten, you know, in the last couple years, you know, talking to friends that have been really successful in it, and that is flipping and pitching. And matter of fact, at Kissimmee, I was very sick at Kissimmee. And day two, I was to the point where I just didn't really have the energy on day two to throw 100,000 casts with a chatterbait and a spinnerbait and in topwater. I felt like I was going to die. I pulled up into some Kissimmee grass, deep Kissimmee grass, grabbed a flipping stick and just would just flip, lift it out, just hit it in pockets, and I ended up upgrading the whole day that way. And that's something I never would have done before. So you've got to be well-rounded in this sport if you're going to travel different lakes. It's not as important if you're fishing local water that you know usually what time of the year, what's going to work, what's not going to work. But I firmly believe, so all that being said, I'm searching with the jackhammer or an Evo. I'm searching as soon as the water's a little warm. I'm throwing a buzz bait to check, because you may not catch them early, but they'll show themselves a lot of times.
Yep.
You know, bait, and then something that I have really done really well and have actually cashed quite a few checks in the last couple of years, and local events especially, is going back to a crankbait. You can really you get so stuck on some things. You know, you can literally go out and throw a wacky rig and catch fish every time just about, but you're not going to cover the water throwing that you can search baits. So maybe start experimenting with some search bait techniques, getting comfortable with that. There was days on some of the KB, and that's where a lot of the KBF monthlies are really good. I'll go to a lake every now and then and I'll say, all right, I am not going to put down the buzz bait today.
Yep.
I'm going to throw a buzz bait. And 90% of the time, you know how most people are, and I was the same way. I'll throw a buzz bait for about maybe 15 minutes, not getting anything. I'll put it away and start something else. But when you throw something, when you know the conditions should be good for that, keep throwing something like that and get used to it, and you'll build confidence in that bait. I was never a good chatterbait fisherman, but I owe it to Corey Dreyer, Casey Reed, and Jody Queen for making me into a chatterbait fisherman. I was fishing with them, I think it was Chick, quite a few years ago.
Wait, you're telling me that Casey Reed fishes with something other than a shaky head?
Yeah, he does, and he's good at it. Casey's good with everything he fishes with. But they were absolutely tearing them up. I ran into them. They were all fishing one bank, and I ran into them. We were actually doing a photo shoot with Scott Butcher for forget what we were doing it for now that my brain's going dead. We did a photo shoot. I think it was KBF, Torquedo, whatever. I can't remember. Different things. Scott's an amazing photographer. Check him out. But anyway, I'm like, guys, I know this is pre-fishing, and if you don't want to show me, that's fine, but teach me, what am I doing wrong? You know, I threw a check. It's just the techniques and how you got to slow them down, and you got to twitch them. And you got to learn how to throw baits in the slop. That's been the key. I think a lot of people think, okay, there's a lot of wood up here, so I'm going to throw a Texas rig worm because I know I can get it through that. Well, until you start learning to throw that spinner bait in the middle of that stuff and bringing it through that, and it's amazing what you can bring a crankbait through. A square bill crankbait will go through stuff until you lock it in your hand and learn how to throw it. And that's where rods come into play. You got to have the right rods for those kind of techniques for them to work that well. Another thing that I've gotten, and this was a Caddo in Texas or Louisiana, one of the two, whichever one we were on at that
Both,
time.
yeah.
But a rattle trap or a rattle trap. Ripping a rattle trap. You get tired of taking the grass off of it, but you find out after you do it for a while, when that thing gets stuck in the grass and you rip it out of it, that's a lot of times when you're catching stuff, and you don't want to throw it unless you get confidence in it. And you're not going to get confidence in these baits unless you start throwing them and lock them in your hand. So you make a lot of stuff that you're like, man, I wish I need to throw that shaky head over there. But when you're trying to break down water and cover water, you need to cover as much water as you can. That's where the motor comes in. That's where some of these power fishing techniques come in. But then when tournament day comes, once you're confident in an area, that's when you got to be careful that you don't go back and slow down and really fish some of the, that's where a Nico rig or I love to fish a Nico rig. So here's what's tied on in my boat just about every tournament. I've got a chatterbait of some sort tied on. I've got a wacky rig tied on. I've got a Z-Man goat toad or billy goat tied on weightless. I've got usually a square bill or a medium diving crankbait. I'll have that on. I always have usually a shaky head. I always have a shaky head, and it's usually on one of the SMH Z-Man heads with either a Fatty Z or that kind of stuff. I'll have, and then a lot of times I also, as long as the water temperature is getting up there, always have a buzz bait tied on. The goat toad I will throw where you can't get buzz baits through, and I use the billy goat sometimes more than I do the goat toad, but I use them the same way. Chatterbait is what I'm throwing between cover, and anytime I'm running between things and I'm just moving along, same thing with the buzz bait. And then when I'm throwing around docks, I'm throwing that either a Nico rig or a wacky rig, or I'm throwing a shaky head underneath docks or around wood. Oh, and the other thing is I'll have a bait caster tied on with a mag fatty, which is a bigger profile worm, and I'll have a little bit heavier weight, and I'll throw that. And the way I rig it with 2 bobber stops at the hook and 2 bobber stops above the weight. And the reason I do that is I can actually slide that weight up and almost make myself a Tex or either a Mojo rig out of it if I run into some grass and I want to slow drag it, or if I want to make it into a Carolina rig. So that's one of the things I do all. I on a mag fatty on usually I run in 17-pound test Seagar is what I use. I'll run 2 bobber stops at the hook and put on my weight, usually 3/8, quarter, like that, because I'm using lighter weights depending on the wind. And then I'll put those 2 bobber stops, and then you can slide that whole system up and give yourself almost a Carolina rig if you want. And it works really, really.
Now, does Matt Ball have a favorite particular cover of the Mag Fatty Z that he likes to fish more often than not?
Yeah, it is probably going to be California Crawl.
Okay. I tell you what, for me, my favorite color, especially in stained water, my brother's a black and blue guy, but I think I have probably more of this color in every different style of Z-Man bait is copper truce, because it's just like I catch everything on that.
Copper truce is big. If it's really muddy, a lot of times I'll throw it, but something about that, it's either California or Canada crawl. I think it might be Canada crawl. I said California crawl, but anyway, it's one of those two variations. They work. And then
Oh yeah.
the other bait that I always have tied on and on a shaky head is mud bug. I love,
Okay.
and then I throw a lot of black, straight black is
Straight
another.
black. Okay.
I've really tried to narrow. I am horrible about carrying plastics. I carry every color they probably make in 2 packages of each, and it is ridiculously stupid. And I normally use either green pumpkin, black, or Canada crawl or mud bug, one of those variations. It's just the way a lot of times where you're putting the bait more so than the color. There are times when I think the color is really, really important, but if you're not getting the bait in the right places, it really doesn't matter. So
Yeah, because I was showing you a little beforehand, but for those listening in, I'm showing what color is this? Is the Lava Crawl new
that time,
Tungsten Evo. And once that water gets around the 55-degree temps, this is like one of my things. But I also picked up some, and I'm going to do an unboxing of a whole bunch of different stuff I've picked up over the winter. But I got some of the Z-Man that's got the little red keeper on it, and I think these are
what I run my goat toads and my billy goats on, and use them like a buzz bait. I caught a lot of fish at Kissimmee on that until I got so sick I got tired of throwing. So
yeah. And then I think for some of the stained water, Ned kind of stuff, I got like the TRD Fatty Z and the Copper Truce. But I've got like a whole box of stuff, but that'll be an unboxing coming later. But since we were talking about Z-Man stuff, I couldn't let that go just because I got a bunch of different stuff in it. I'll do an unboxing video on that coming up here before we really get on the water. But tell us a little bit about the rods that you like to use, because it seems like I know a lot of people in kayak fishing that fish on the level that you fish, and many of you share the same rod brand. So,
Ashton makes, in my opinion, the best rod for what I do. They're light, they are durable. I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you. I have broke. I'm bad. I am hard on gear. Um, I just am. I'm a little bit accident prone when it comes to running rods into stuff, and I kind of don't pay attention. I'll have them hanging off the side, but that their rods are light and sensitive. And when I first started using them, I didn't think I would like the texture of the handle, but it feels weird when I grab something else. But their chattergrass rod is my go-to rod for throwing a chatterbait. Their multi-purpose rod is an amazing, amazing rod, and it is for. I use it. It's great for rattle traps. It's great for spinner baits. It's great for shake. You can, if you was to only find one rod, their multi-purpose rod is a great overall rod. Is it going to do everything the best? No, but and then I use the medium heavy 7'2" in the Icon series. I use it the CK series. I throw a lot of medium heavy action bait casting rods for a lot of techniques. And then I carry the heavy actions for throwing the goat toad with braid. And, most all of my reels are either a Baits, which is my absolute favorite reel right
okay.
now, Baits reel, and the Shimano. Going going out of
Use Shimano Corrado is probably most common.
sorry. Fishing Online carries all that. All of my reels come from Fishing Online. They are now carrying the Baits reels, and they are amazing. I love them. That's what I put on my my chatterbait rod, and it was just the size. It's the hundo, and the size of it to throw that all day. It just made a difference. It's got a smaller profile in your hand than the Curado.
Yeah.
Throwing, I love my Curados. They're amazing and they are durable. But that hundo just fits in my hand, and every time I would put it down and grab something else, I felt like, oh, it's a little bigger, you know. In your hand, you get hand strain after casting and casting and casting.
Mm-hmm.
You know. And then also Shimano spinning rods, reels. I usually have in my boat 3 spinning rods and 5 bait casters rigged up when I go in the water. Hopefully by tournament day, I'm down to maybe 2 spinning rods and 2 bait casters, but that doesn't happen a lot.
I've been known to start pre-fishing with 12 rods and then maybe whittle it down to 8, even though I know I'm only going to fish with probably 3 of them the whole day. Shoot, yeah. Well, that's awesome. So, how do you think? What do you think the fishing at Fork is going to be like about the time of the year that we hit it? It should be
Everything that friends that know the water have said is it should be awesome. So,
yeah.
that being said, that means I'm probably going to go there and fish for 3 days pre-fishing and be like, I suck because I ain't catching nothing. That's usually how that goes when everybody tells you it's going to be on fire. It's the perfect time of the year, you know. So, you know, I hope it is. You know, I really do. I hope it is, but I'm prepared. I'd literally go into every tournament with full expectations to get there, because I usually get there later than a lot of other people because I'm usually trying to save vacation for family stuff
Yep.
and what. I usually get there with 2 or 3 days at the most to pre-fish, and I usually pull in the house with my buddies, and they're like, "Oh, it's tough. Fish, it's really tough." And I'm like, "That's great, you know." So I figure that's probably what's going to happen, but you know, usually end up making do. I do.
Yeah, my daughter lives in Dallas, and she's like, it's either going to be like 70 or 80, or it's going to be freezing. With this year, it's just been
I
who knows.
kayak for my wife. She's not going to fish, but she wants to just get out. So I hope it's warm enough that she'll actually want to go out with me when I'm pre-fishing. You know, to just hang out with me. And I'm staying with me and Jody and Abby are bringing our wives, and we're all staying in a house. So I'm really looking forward to that trip where we, you know, our wives can get to know each other and just
Yeah.
kind of there and eat in the evenings. And you know, I generally we have a lot of fun during these events. But it'll be the first one that I've taken. She went with me to the kayak championship on Chick year before last, I think it was, when it was on
Okay.
Chick. And she went with me then. Took a kayak then, but it ended up being cold and rainy the whole time. So she stayed at the Airbnb. But her and I just got an Airbnb by ourselves. But she actually brought me pretty good luck. I was just like first out of the money for that event, I think. So it wasn't a Chick. Where was it? No, it was just a Bassmaster event. Maybe I can't remember. It was on Chick. I do remember that. I don't.
Okay.
They haven't had the championship on Chick, have they?
I don't think so.
Too many events. I forget where everything is.
Yeah. Well, excellent. Well, I told you I keep you an hour. It's been about an hour, and I wanted to say thank you for coming on and sharing your story with us, your gear, your stuff, and you know, obviously your influence in getting. And like you said, all you need is a paddle, a PFD, and a kayak. And even if you just have a spinning rod, you can still go out there and catch fish. So we all started that way. Don't think you have to have the best of the best. Just like Matt said, me and Jeremy, my brother, started out, and I had a red, he had a blue Walmart yak. And I remember sitting on the little seat cushions you would put on a bleacher just so your butt bones wouldn't hurt. But, you know, we made do back in the day. But I mean, that's how it goes. So, Matt, we wanted to thank you a lot for coming on and telling your story, sharing the gospel a little bit with us. And obviously, man, we wish you the best of luck down there, and I can't wait to see you here in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, real quick, I'll just want to say thanks to my sponsors that are really out there supporting me, and that's Fishing Online, Dakota Lithium, Z-Man, uh, Kayak Cushion, Hobie Eyewear. Gosh, I'm probably going to forget some. I've mentioned a lot of them, but Fishing Online, Torpedo, Tackle
Yak
Work,
Attack, of course.
Bonafide. Just I've been so blessed, and I'm thankful for each and every one of them, and I hope that I give them the value that they give me, and that's my goal. So.
Yep. And be sure if you're coming to the Bassmaster Classic, whether you're coming to see the guys in the kayaks or the guys in the boats, keep watching on social media. We'll both post up the graphics when he has the Fisherman's Fellowship, and y'all can join us because while I won't be fishing in the tournament, I'm surely going to be there just because I love being around all my buddies that are there fishing for the big blue trophy.
I want one of those bad.
They would look good sitting back there with all them trophies you got back on the wall too. So yeah. All right, brother. I will let you get back to it, and want to thank everybody for tuning in, listening on Spotify, listening on to Apple Podcast. As always, get outside when you can and make some memories, one cast at a time.